I am the Craft Dad.
Welcome back, everybody, to the first part of the Butterfly Demon Sword. This is a sword that's unique to the anime that came out back in 2019. This is the Butterfly Girl who actually uses the sword in the anime. They call her the Butterfly Girl in a lot of the references I've seen, and they call the sword the Butterfly Demon Sword. If you end up hearing birds in the background, I apologize because those are my two puggies that are in the office with me. I've got the lights off. Hopefully they're not as distracting. But as you can see, the uniqueness of the sword here is that the middle is completely missing. And the end of it is kind of like a little cleaver or knife. This is definitely something I think would be quite fun to make. And I wanted to make this a different way than what I would probably do in the past. Near the hilt of the sword, on both sides of the sword, is actually writing. Now, I don't really know what this says. I'm going to have to try to figure out the characters. If any of you out there know what this says, please let me know. I would really appreciate that. But I'm going to have to use like Google Translate and some other things to try to make sure I get the translation right, just so I know exactly how the characters are supposed to look. It's always a little hard to do that in the video when trying to watch the anime and then do some screen captures. You can see here, it's trying to capture it. And then I also saw that inside the handguard, there is actually some type of design. So I'm going to have to get that as well to see if I can actually replicate that when I do the sword, when I craft that part of the sword. And so, just the other thing I've got to think about is, am I going to paint it on the way it looks like in this screenshot, or am I going to try to do one side where it looks painted and the other side where it looks like it's etched into the actual blade of the sword? At times it kind of looks like both. So it's something I'm going to have to play with and just kind of figure out and see what I want to do. But that's the creative part of this whole process. So while doing a lot of play, pause, I eventually got one frame that gave me a pretty good amount of detail on the handguard part of the sword. And as you can see here, it's slightly indented, and there is, I guess, what looks like almost like trees or forests or make flowers or something in there. But I can definitely use this to create kind of a template to transfer to the two different sides. I wanted to create a mock-up of the sword first. And so to do that, I decided to jump into Blender, which is a great program. It's free software out there, and there's tons of videos and lessons of how to do that. So I spent one of the weekends, several weekends ago, relearning how to do Blender and build the sword. And so that's what I ended up doing over the course of like about a week and a half. I can definitely do this a lot faster now. As you see here in this picture, this is a screenshot that's closer up of the sword, and as you can see, I've got that signature kind of butterfly shape there. Now, one of the things I noticed when I was reviewing the reference photos is that it's not in the actual shape of kind of like a plus sign, which I've seen other people do in the as they do the replica of this sword. It's really definitely where the two, like I guess, wings are closer up to the top and bottom and farther apart on the sides. Here's an actual 3D render of the sword that I was able to do after completing it in Blender, which really looks awesome. And if I wanted to, I could, if I had a 3D printer, I could actually set this for 3D printing. Now, maybe in the future I could end up doing something like that, but that wouldn't be fun. That's too easy. That's not what I would do as Craft Dad. I want to build this out of some other materials, putting together, and get a final product. Here's another close-up of that butterfly shape, as you can see. And as you can see, I've also got that cut out for the sword itself in the middle section there. Now, the other reason why I wanted to do this in Blender is because Blender will let you export the files into a different type of file that you can then actually use in a program called Pepakura, which is a paper folding art program. It can take 2D images, or 3D images and turn them into 2D printouts. And here is the Pepakura designer. The program itself to buy was like $5, and you get, and it actually gives you upgrades, like when they upgrade to version 4, what they're at right now. I bought it when it's like version 2 or 3, and my license that I bought stays with me for life and transfers on this computer through each one. But there's other files out there that you can do if you just want to have fun and make it. So here is an image from the Pepakura file as I go through and start adjusting how I want the edges joined or combined. As you can see here, it had it where with the inside that butterfly edge, it had that inner wrapping lip as something that was just strung together, and eventually it would add tabs, and then you would end up gluing that back on. As you can see, what I was doing is I was actually separating it out and then reattaching it on the side as little tiny tabs that I'll just fold up, because with how small this really is, I mean, from top to bottom, from the top of the sword to the bottom of the sword, for the hand guard, it measures only to about 2.6 inches. You know, so I mean, it's still that's pretty small, you know, but for you know, it's still kind of big, you know, and we'll have to see how it looks. Now, the inspiration of how I want to build this sword comes from one that I already made. This was a medieval collectible sword that I had actually recreated as a commission for someone else. And I'm going to post the whole video of how I made this. But it started off like this, where it was just one of those flagpoles that you use on the back of your bicycles. They call them marking sticks for pavements or roadways or whatever. They're like a fiberglass type pole, but they're very, very sturdy. And I turned that into this, and all of that is warbler work for the hand guard that goes around it. I didn't paint it gold. I went with a more of a, well, I used like a gold paint, but it's hard to see there. Here as well, I did the sheath for the sword. I did this one as a short sheath that's open-ended, where it just slides off and on the sword. But I also made it so that it would also help clean and shine the clear coat on the sword. So that's a brief description and just kind of a sneak peek of the sword that I'm going to be building as one of 2 commissions for the next coming up months. I hope you enjoyed, and again, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.